Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Now today marks a bit of an event because we're finally going to review another dragon. Yes, DinosDragons is about both dinosaur and dragon reviews. Now when I finish reviewing my last Mammalian dragon, I promised to come back with more dragon reviews if I had new ones. And a few of you have messaged me to ask, when is the next dragon? Well, the answer is right now. And with the latest poster reveal of the upcoming Monster Hunter movie, though not always with the most positive of reactions, what better dragon to start with than this? Now, this is the Capcom figure builder creators model Monster Hunter Rathian. Try saying that fast at least 3 times in a row. Now I want to thank a viewer Amir Alavi, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, for first calling my attention to this line. Now he said that these are wallet emptying dragons with Hot Toys level price tags to match, and he was right. But I was lucky to find this one at a very low price. Now Rathian is one of the franchise's most recognizable monsters. Now, just one disclaimer, I know there are many of you who are really passionate about the Monster Hunter games, but when I review dragons, I enjoy speculating based on what I see. With a series as established as Monster Hunter with its own lore, there might not be as much opportunity for that, and I might make plenty of faux pas. So if I say something blasphemously incorrect, please be merciful, right? It's all in good fun and deep appreciation. Now, Rathian is a female wyvern who nests on the ground, unlike her male counterpart Rathalos, who's red and who dominates the skies. Now, the pose is action-packed. Now, every part is poised, every muscle taut and ready for action. Now, is it ready to take off? Sensing a threat, defending her young, or spotting a meal, namely you. Now, a really dynamic pose is never just 2D or flat, and this is the case from every angle. Now, look at this. Now, from the top, you'll see the general curve here of the action, and there's a nice counter curve going up the tail, and yet another counter curve coming up here, drawing your eye to the stinger. Now from the front, I love how the head dips below the horizontal, and with these wings radiating out in different angles, giving you more directional lines to look at. And from the side, if you look at the slant of this line going downwards, nothing is aligned plainly with any major axis, and even the tail here is twisted, again drawing your attention to the venomous stinger at the end. Now from here, look just how these two biggest spikes on the leading edge of the arm create 2 forward projecting curves, like you can almost imagine them lancing forward or grasping or even pincering some poor victim. Now this dragon is bristling with action, and speaking of bristling, let's talk about detail. Now the one thing that would immediately leap out is how bristly this dragon is. Now you can't help but notice these overlapping plates running down from the neck all the way down to the tail, where it ends in a cluster of very dangerous and venomous looking spikes. And each plate has its own array of spines, so that the effect is that from any angle, you get to appreciate this overlapping effect. Whether you view it from here, or here, or on the other side, over here. Now, the leading edge of the wing arm are again full of spikes, and I just love the natural asymmetry between the left and the right. On the thighs, you also have spikes. Now here, anteriorly pointing forwards, and also one pointing laterally. that is out to the side. Now, these are short, muscular legs, like a sprinter's, and I would imagine it to be capable of sudden bursts of speed, as you might see in the game itself. And these talons are gripping the rock. They really just put an exclamation point on the frightening power you can expect from these legs. And finally, the tail end. Now here are a cluster of, I counted them earlier, of 11 of these barbs. Now can you just imagine these things just jabbing forwards at you? Now I almost said business end of the animal, right? Because maybe I'm still stuck thinking about Ankylosaurus. But really looking at how dangerously armored Rathian is from all angles on almost every part of the body, I'd say it's all business from all angles. I really like the twisting and torsion that you see here in the tail as well. Now it seems like a little thing, right? But I actually love how sharp these things really are. Here, down here, everywhere, right? Even here, they're all pretty sharp. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend you have these where children can get access, but I also like that the sharpness of these points gives this figure a very collector's feel, like they're not making any compromises to make this child safe, the way they did on the Safari Stegosaurus here. Let me look for it. So like you see on Sophie over here, look at how blunt these Tagomizer spikes are. Really disturbing to my eye. I'm going to have that shaved down at some point. To a point. To a point at some point. Right? Now, interestingly, Rathian has fur. What looks like fur to me anyway. One of you can educate me on this. On the shoulders here, and a little bit on the wing arm over here. Now, unless you might think it looks a bit strange on a reptile, remember some of the modern feathered dinosaurs we know of? Well, so nothing too out of place here. Now, the head itself is rather short, with a blunt snout and well protected. The pattern of overlapping plates here, and then even on the sides of the head, really just echo those down the back and on various other parts of the animal. And even the chin has this very dangerous looking spike, a forward projecting spike. And really she just has to walk towards you to be dangerous. She's got nice red eyes, very nicely painted. And then also, just look at the tongue, get the focus, look at the tongue, and then the individually separate teeth. Again, very nice. And actually, this reminds me of a little bit, at least, of another McFarlane dragon I have. Now, this one is the McFarlane Series 1 Komodo dragon, and for some reason, Rathian just reminds me of this. Maybe it's because of the similarly crouched positions, the bluntness of the head, I don't know. I mean, maybe the barbs on the tail, or not. You know, looking at them now, they do look a little bit different. Anyway, I think they would look nice and not too out of place put together, as probably will happen if you're one of those collectors whose shelves are now overflowing with abundance, right? They're not going to look too out of place next to each other. Now, the scales, as you'd expect, vary regionally. You'll see here one kind of scale on the wing arm, different kind on the sides of Rathian. And then the wings, of course, have a different kind of scalation. Very nice. Very nice. Look. Oh, holy shit. You know what? I just realized, I didn't realize this before. Now, when I looked at it for the first time, I thought that these lines were just etched in. But upon closer inspection, it looks like each of these scales actually stands out in separate relief. And let me check the other side. Yep, it's the same here too. So it's not really just etching in lines to create a hatching effect, to create the appearance of scales. These are individually raised. Alright, so that's really nice. And just looking at this again, I'd say the detail even carries to the wing membrane edge. Now, this jagged line, when I first looked at it, I thought it was just fraying, right? Which in itself would be a nice detail, but I look at it now and I realize that these are actually a part of the actual anatomy. Now, they're composed of different kinds of scales. See, these are more like diamond or triangular shaped. And that creates effectively little spikes jutting out from the wing edge. And really, this is in keeping with the overall theme of Rathian so far, isn't it? Alright, very nice. Well, you do see seam lines here, up at the neck here, which is a common thing, I guess, with PVC ABS figures. You'll also see those seam lines on some of the PNSO dinosaurs, but really it's nothing you would notice when she's on your shelf. Just a little point here. Perhaps fittingly, there is a seam here. And if you play the game, you know there are different parts of the dragons you fight, the monsters you fight, that can be severed. So I'm not sure. This could well be a nod to that. I don't know. Now the base itself, unfortunately, is rather plain, as you can see here. But I do like that they made an effort to conceal this support for the tail over here, making it look like a natural feature, or perhaps a branch or a stalagmite. Now, as to the color, you've already probably seen this. Notice the beautiful paintwork on this as I went through the detail. Rathian is generally a muted green color, and pretty much how she looks like in the game, I think. But as you would expect from a figure of this caliber, it's not just a plain green. There are different shades and fades throughout Rathian. So you don't get any simple layering on like you might with a cheaper model. You can see here that even these spikes here, they're generally brown, but then they fade very nicely into the green on the wing arms. But the highlight for me, really, the true highlight in terms of color, has to be these plates. Now you can see that that on the trailing edge, they are all brown. You see that they fade very nicely into the green. But what's really pleasing to me is that because of the overlapping nature of these plates, each of these overlapping plates actually cast a shadow on the one subjacent to it. So in other words, what you'll get when you view this wyvern is a combination of paintwork and simply natural shadow, giving it a very pleasing and interesting look. It is hard to discern even which is what's paintwork and what's just the natural shadow. And indeed, just looking at how the different colors fade into each other, for example on the wing spots over here, it's still a very natural look. Like you'd expect pigment to do in a real animal. And even on the underside, that's pretty nicely painted as well, even on the wing, right? And for most intents and purposes, you wouldn't really get to look at the wing on the underside, but they've gone ahead and given it a very nice paint job as well. And wait a minute. Now, I didn't notice this before. Previously, I thought that these were just painted lines here, but they're actually not. If you look closely, these lines are actually sculpted in a very tightly overlapping manner, though not as deeply demarcated as what you'll see here in the spine, but nonetheless, it's there. So this is sculpted in detail and not just paintwork. They really didn't have to do that. And you know, I really love something like this that not only stands up to, but rewards close scrutiny. So very nice dragon. I keep saying dragon in my excitement, of course. This is a wyvern. So to end off, I want to share a personal story. Now, I usually prefer true dragons, but I love that this is a green wyvern with these eye spots, because it reminds me of a picture that made a very deep impression on me as a child. Now, this is St. George and the Dragon by Paolo Uccello, and when I first saw it, I couldn't yet read. But this image left a very haunting impression on my mind. And it was years later that I finally learned the name of the painting, thanks to the power of the internet. And now, having this crouching dragon, wyvern, green eye spots and all, it's like the physical manifestation of that image that haunted me for years, which I now can put to rest on my shelf. Now, I've said this before about other dragons, particularly the McFarlane ones, and it's still true, but this is also a dragon that belongs on any table or display. Now, perhaps even as a centerpiece that will draw your eye to it. And if you can get your claws on one of these, I don't think you have cause to strenuously object. Right, so that's it for our first dragon review in a very long time, and I want to thank those of you who've stuck with the channel, and hopefully there'll be a few more to come. Now, next time I want to show you something else a little different. So take care, guys.